Hi, I'm Alan Keele. As some of you know, I'm very pleased to have been asked again to teach an ElderQuest course in the winter semester starting in January. In fact, my course will, I understand, start on January 28th. It's a Thursday. I'll teach at 1 o'clock on Thursdays. I hope you'll pencil me in into your diaries and your calendars. In 2016, Linda and I were invited to go down the Rhine on a cruise. We were invited by the BYU College of Business. They have a group they call the NAC, the National Advisory Council or Committee. These consist of wealthy people who are also very generous. And it turned out they were very nice people, wonderful people. We got to know them. I was asked to be a kind of cultural consultant, and our way was paid. And Linda was thrilled because she had never been on a cruise and she loved the food and all the wonderful things that went on board. I propose we do a virtual cruise because we can't go to Switzerland and Holland right now. But as we cruised down the Rhine, I had prepared a bunch of lectures, and probably over-prepared, but there are lots of interesting things. The first thing we encountered was huge and beautiful cathedrals. So I gave a course on cathedral architecture from the Roman times, the Greek basilicas, to modern times, but especially with Romanesque architecture, which is prominent along the Rhine, and then the so-called New Style, which they later called Gothic. And so these cathedrals are absolutely stupendous, and it's a lot of fun to talk about them. Another thing we talked about as we went up the Rhine was who the people were who inhabited these European countries. And we found out that they have origins in a little place north of the Black Sea, and we call them now the Indo-Europeans, because they gradually spread out and filled the whole area between Europe and India. And their languages are particularly interesting. And it turns out that the Rhine plays an important role in how some linguistic changes occurred. And so going up the Rhine is an excuse to talk about who our ancestors are and how our languages developed. I find that quite interesting. And that's actually one thing I happen to know quite a bit about. It was part of my PhD program at Princeton. Another thing we did is, since there were a bunch of businessmen and women, I talked about the businesses along the Rhine and the industry, including in the Third Reich, where we discovered, to our amazement, that American companies like Ford and GM maintained factories along the Rhine during the Nazi period. So they were building V-1 rocket parts and tanks and jeeps and so forth for the German Nazis and for the Americans, and profiting from both sides. One of the guys on the cruise was a Ford executive, and he was not happy, but the things I was saying were incontrovertible, but he wasn't happy about me bringing them up. We talked about the Roman Empire, because it was very important, because the Rhine is was the northern border for the Roman Empire. They were unable to subdue the Germanic tribes east of the Rhine, and there's some very interesting, great battles that occurred, including a slaughter of the Roman army that went in to try to subdue them. And let's see, we talked about, we passed Worms, which is a city where Martin Luther was summoned to defend his theological ideas. And I gave a lecture on Luther, which I find is very fascinating. And it turns out that there's an awful lot of relevance to Luther's theological ideas to those of us who now live in the Mountain West. So there are lots of various things, and I propose that we simply pretend we're going down the Rhine. We'll have to skip on the good food, but I invite you to join me, and I hope Joan will schedule a Rhine cruise for us at some point, and I'd love to go there and be with you there in person. So I hope to see you on January 28th, Thursday at 1 p.m. I'm Alan Keele. Thanks, bye.